let us understand the various cost concepts. The first important concept is the variable cost. So a variable cost is a cost that tends to vary in total in the direct proportion or in one-to-one relationship to the change in the production activity, sales activity, or some other measure of the volume within the relevant range for a given budgeted period. Now, what do we mean by this? It means that variable cost will move in direct proportion to the number of units manufactured. So if we are incurring, suppose, raw material, 5 kg of raw material in manufacturing one finished commodity, so for manufacturing 2 finished commodity, we will require 10 kg of raw material, and so far and so forth. What are the various types of variable cost that you may come across in management accounting is material cost, direct cost, labor cost. So material cost means the raw material that is getting consumed in order to manufacture the finished commodity. The direct cost means the cost of maybe electricity which is used for running the machine and other such direct costs. And labor cost means remuneration paid to the labor who is converting the raw material into the finished goods. So this is again a suggestive list, and there can be whole lot of more top items that can be added to this list. Now let us understand what is the relationship in the case of variable cost. So the direct relationship between input and output. So I just gave this an example that if we need 5 kgs of raw material in order to manufacture one finished commodity, so for 2 we shall need 10 kgs of raw material. The cost of these inputs increases or decreases in proportion to the increase or decrease in volume. So in case we increase the volumes which need to be manufactured, the consumption of the raw material will increase, and vice versa. In case we need to manufacture lesser number of units, then even the cost of the variable cost items will decrease. Now the variable cost has got another name, and that is also known as engineered cost. That is a cost that has an explicit specified physical relationship with a selected measure of an activity. So let us now see how can the variable cost components look in a cost sheet. So here they are talking about the manufacturing of 4,000 bottles, and the cost that needs to be incurred on bottles is 120,000, ingredients 32,000, water 12,000, and labor cost 24,000. And on the right hand side, they have given you that in the current month, instead of manufacturing 400,000 bottles, the company has manufactured 480,000. So now let us see what are the items that are directly related to the volume. So first is the cost of bottles. As more bottles need to be prepared, the cost of bottles has increased from 120,000 to 144,000. Again, the ingredient that need to be filled into the beverage bottle, so the expected cost was 32,000, but because more bottles were prepared, the ingredient cost has increased to 38,400. Similarly, the water that needs to be used to be preparing the beverage is more, so the bottle cost has increased from 12,000 to 14,400. And similar is the case with the labor. That is, it shows that more labor was engaged in order to prepare these 480,000 bottles of beverages. So all these items will fall into the variable cost category, as these are moving in the direct proportion to the volumes being manufactured. Now let us see what do we mean by fixed cost. So fixed costs are associated with the inputs which do not vary with the change in the volume of output or the activity within a specified range of the activity or output for a given budgeted period. Now let us understand what does this mean. This means that these are the costs that apparently feels that remain constant over a given period of time. And what is that given period of time? Say a time period of 12 months or one financial year. So in one financial year, the cost shall remain the same. So suppose a company is working in a rented premises, and the rent that is being paid to the landlord is 1 lakh rupees per month. So whether the company is manufacturing lesser number of units in that premises or more number of units, the rent of the premises shall remain the same. Similarly, if we have taken the insurance for our premises, the insurance premium shall remain the same whether we are manufacturing more units or lesser units, and same will be the case with salaries of the senior officials. So there maybe many more such items where the cost remains constant, and that means that it does not vary in the direct proportion to the volumes being manufactured. So now when we say that the cost shall remain fixed, it means that it is subject to a change over a period of time. So even if we are paying rent to our landlord, the rent agreement needs a revision at the end of the financial year. So the rental of the premises may be revised in the next financial year. So it is subject to the change over a period of time. Since fixed cost is unaffected by volume, any increase in the volume results in a smaller cost per unit of the fixed cost, and conversely, a smaller number of units manufactured, the fixed cost per unit shall become higher. So this is how we calculate the per unit, or we try to find out the relationship in terms of per unit cost. The fixed cost does not change in response to the change in volumes. Let us now see an example. So here we were talking about the expected bottles to be prepared 400,000, whereas the real number of bottles prepared was 480,000. So in the earlier case where we were talking about, we were comparing the cost of the bottle, cost of the ingredients used, or the water used, or the labor used, where we were able to see that there was a proportionately higher expense when more bottles were prepared. But let us now compare the items or the cost incurred on rent, depreciation, and other such fixed costs. So we are able to see, though we manufacture more number of bottles, the cost of rent remains the same, the depreciation remains the same, and other expenses remain the same. That means that in every organization there will be some items of expenses which will be fixed in nature, whereas there will be some items of expenses which will vary with the volumes being manufactured. Now let us see what do we mean by semi-variable cost or mixed cost. So all the costs which are neither perfectly variable in nature nor are absolutely fixed in nature shall fall in this category of mixed cost or semi-variable cost. So the one unique thing about the semi-variable cost is that it carries one fixed component and it carries one more component, and that is variable in nature. Now let us see the electricity connection that we take for a factory unit. So the fixed component will be the facility cost, facility charges, or the cost that you are paying for getting the meter installed and getting the load sanctioned to you. And there will be a monthly rental that needs to pay for the facility that the electricity board has given to our company. Now the second component of our bill shall comprise of the number of units that are getting used in order to run the various machines or do the office work. So this will comprise the variable component of the bill, and more the number of units that are being consumed by the factory, more will be the bill of electricity that they will have to pay. Same will be the case with telephone charges, broadband, and any such other utility facilities where you need to arrange the facility and then you need to pay the facility charges as well as the utility charges. Now let us look into the direct and indirect cost. So we are talking about a bottling plant, right? And we are talking about insurance being done for the bottling plant. So the direct cost will be the cost that is directly incurred in running or operating this plant, maybe the electricity charges, the basic cost that is required to operate the plant, and the indirect cost will be like insurance, security of the premises, maybe maintenance of the premises, the cleanliness of the premises, and so far and so forth. So in a beverages company, the direct cost will comprise of the bottles and the beverages, the machinery, the cost of operating the machine, that is the electricity cost, or the power cost that is being incurred. The cost which can be identified logically and practically in their entirety to a particular department or a product is known as a direct cost. So either we should be able to assign that cost or align that cost with the units being manufactured, or we are successful in aligning that cost with a specific department, then that cost will be termed as direct cost. The cost which cannot be identified logically and practically in their entirety to a particular department or product or division or segment shall be known as the indirect cost or the common cost. So if we talk about the foreman working on the machinery, then that cost can directly be allocated to the production department. Whereas when we talk about the safety and security of the factory premises, then this cost is a common cost, and it might be difficult to allocate this cost department wise or say division wise. Opportunity cost. Opportunity cost represents the benefit foregone by not choosing the second best alternative in favor of the best one. Since they are hypothetical, they are not recorded in the books of accounts. Now let us understand what do we mean by sunk cost. The expenditure which have already been incurred in the past and which does not require any current expenditure are known as sunk cost. For example, for the same can be amortization of the intangible assets, or the preliminary expenses being paid by the company, or the cost of issue of a share. Then the next category is controllable and non-controllable cost. So an item of cost is controllable if the amount of the cost incurred is the responsibility in a responsibility center is significantly influenced by the action of the person in charge of the task. Otherwise, it will be termed as non-controllable. So this controllable and non-controllable are relative terms. There can be some cost which is controllable at one point in time, but later on as the company progresses, that cost becomes uncontrollable or mandatory for the company.